Forewarned of the disaster 10 years before the Titanic was even built. It's called Futility, written in 1898 by Morgan Robertson. In it, a colossal new ship named the Titan is on its maiden voyage from England to New York in April when it strikes an iceberg and sinks in almost the exact spot where the Titanic would go down 14 years later. The Titan's dimensions, top speed, number of lifeboats and passengers aboard are strikingly identical to the Titanic's. Futility even predicts correctly which side of the ship the iceberg will strike. High noon, departure time. The Titanic steamed away as tens of thousands gaily cheered her on, unaware of the near disaster they were about to witness. The ship's captain, Edward J. Smith, playing to the approving audience, ordered up more power from the engine room. Too much power, many believe. The Titanic tore through the harbor, creating a dangerous suction from her mammoth propellers. Only minutes into her maiden voyage, and Captain Smith had already put her in peril. A docked liner, the New York, was sucked in by the Titanic's wake. The mooring lines snapped like kite string, and she was immediately drawn into a crash course with the Titanic. Edith Heisman and her father watched in horror.
It looked as if the New York was going to run into the Titanic. And my father turned around and said, "That's a bad omen."
At the last possible moment, the engines of the Titanic blew a surge of water that pushed the New York away, narrowly avoiding an embarrassing and costly collision. Smith's boss, Bruce Ismay, was not amused. This was more than just a close call. It was an ominous case of déjà vu. Only 7 months earlier, in a similar incident, the Titanic's sister ship, Olympic, had collided with a British Navy cruiser, the HMS Hawke, causing massive damage to both ships. Found at fault by a government inquiry, Captain Smith. Yet Ismay still put him at the helm of the Titanic. Smith certainly looked right for the role.
He looked like Noah to me. He had a white beard and an extremely good reputation with both the company and with his officers and crew. Passengers liked him very much. He seemed to fulfill all the august presence that the role of a captain demanded on the North Atlantic.
This was to be Smith's final voyage before he retired, and he was hoping for a smooth trip. But below decks, deep in the belly of the great ship, the fuse of a powder keg had already been lit in coal bunker number 5.
Some spark occurred, whatever, coal rubbing against itself, and just some spontaneous combustion, and it began smoldering. And it was discovered about the time the ship sailed, and it may have been smoldering for days at that point. We don't really know.
It took stokers 3 back-breaking days to empty the bulkhead and put the fire out. Captain Smith ordered the ship designer, Thomas Andrews, to inspect the damage. He feared the intense heat might have weakened the steel and compromised the watertight bulkheads. No one but the crew knew of a fire on board. Strolling passengers enjoyed the voyage of their lives. Love was in bloom. As the sun sank for the last time on the great ship, the passengers indulged themselves in the opulent dining rooms. One topic of discussion was the sudden and sharp drop in temperature. As the adults retired to the vices of expensive alcohol and tobacco, families put in for the night. In Eva Hart's cabin, Eva's mother was still unable to shake her ill feelings about the trip. At 10 p.m., Crow's Nest lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee came on watch under miserable conditions. It was a dark, moonless night, and the ocean was absolutely still, making details on the horizon difficult to see. The temperature had fallen to 31 degrees, but it was worse up in the Crow's Nest, where the men struggled to see with a wind chill that made it nearly 0 degrees.